Shonen is built on its villains. Frieza, Aizen, Pain, Eren, the characters who define entire eras. But every so often, a story reaches for greatness and misses. Today we're looking at Tomura Shigaraki, a villain who, on paper, should have been one of the most compelling antagonists of modern shonen, but somehow became one of the most disappointing. This is a video focused on the rise and fall, mostly fall, of MHA's supposed central villain. Now don't get me wrong, on paper, Shigaraki is a great idea. One of My Hero Academia's core themes is legacy, what one generation leaves behind for the next. Deku inherits One for All, becoming All Might's successor and the world's next symbol of peace. Shigaraki is meant to be the dark mirror to that idea, the successor to All for One, heir to the greatest evil in the series. And early on, the parallel is interesting. Deku begins as sincere but inept, and Shigaraki starts off the same way, a villain who wants to do evil but is hilariously bad at it. He's petulant, impulsive, and childish. He wants destruction just because. His introduction ends with him being completely embarrassed by All Might, losing most of his Nomu and supplies in the process. He's nothing like Madara or Aizen, villains introduced already at the top of their game. Shigaraki is the opposite, someone who's supposed to grow into the role of final villain. The idea has potential. The execution, however, is where everything falls apart. Shigaraki always had issues, but the My Villain Academia arc exposed just how deeply broken his character arc was. In chapter 220, we learn that the League of Villains has been living in squalor after All for One's defeat. No progress, no direction, no leadership. For an entire month, Shigaraki's only achievement is eating snacks. This moment unintentionally reveals an uncomfortable truth. Shigaraki never becomes more cunning, charismatic, resourceful, or strategic. His growth is a facade. He runs the league into the ground and drifts aimlessly until someone else drags him into the plot. And the pattern continues. Kurogiri has to offer to find Gigantomachia. Shigaraki only gets out of his runs when Gigantomachia tracks him down. Shigaraki only gets an objective when Dr. Garaki offers him more power. Shigaraki only moves when We Destro forces him to fight with the MLA. Shigaraki arrives in Deku City to fight an entire army with no plan at all. The League only survives because of sudden quirk awakenings, and he doesn't even assimilate the MLA. We Destro just gives him control. This doesn't just make Shigaraki look incompetent, it retroactively weakens his entire character. Overhaul calls him a poor leader early on, and the story frames that moment as something Shigaraki will transcend. But the MVA arc confirms the opposite. Overhaul was right, and always would be. And Shigaraki's failures don't just damage him, they drag down everyone around him. The Meta Liberation Army, once a massive ideological movement embedded across society, gets reduced to skeptic and a bunch of faceless fodder. Shigaraki's incompetence turns All for One from a master manipulator into someone who picked the worst possible successor. All for One brags that Shigaraki is out in the world making bold decisions without him. But in reality, Shigaraki does nothing without outside intervention. Worse, he often sabotages All for One's plans. In the first war, Shigaraki nearly dies and All for One has to remote control him. His decay wave destroys 90% of Garaki's Nomu. And in the final war, his involuntary switching prevents All for One from killing the heroes or stopping the teleportation plan. Even All for One's once terrifying aura is nerfed. Quirks removed, abilities restricted, just to artificially inflate Shigaraki's threat level, turning the final battle into a repetitive decay slugfest. But perhaps the biggest casualty is the dynamic between Deku and Shigaraki. They are meant to be narrative rivals, dark and light inheritors of legacy. Instead, their clash becomes hollow because Shigaraki's writing is hollow. He isn't a compelling ideological foil, he isn't a tragic figure with a complex worldview. He's ultimately just another one of All for One's victims who continues to spout vague lines about destroying everything. And then there's his relationship with the League, the one trait that supposedly makes him stand out from other villains. But the story never actually shows this affection. It only tells us that it exists. Spinner loses his mind, and Shigaraki doesn't check on him. Kurogiri was his caretaker for years, yet Shigaraki never comments on his condition. He ignores Compress's capture. Twice's death gets no meaningful reaction. He never interacts with Dabi, Toga, or Magne in a way that shows real bonding. And despite having Ragdoll's search quirk, able to track 100 people, Shigaraki never once tries to locate his friends during the final war. We're shown a single scene of him buying sushi for the League, and apparently that's enough for the story to claim their found family. It's not enough, not even close. And the nail in the coffin? He has no compelling goal, no ideology, no spine. He repeats the same empty mantra about being a villain and destroying everything, and the narrative bends over to validate him instead of challenging him. What's left is a hollow antagonist who weakens the world building, diminishes better villains, creates a limp rivalry with Deku, and drags down the story's thematic potential with him. Honestly, the story might have been better off without him. And that's the story of how a character with massive potential became one of Shonen's most mishandled villains. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and let me know in the comments. Do you think Shigaraki could have been saved as better writing, or was he doomed from the start? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.